I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be piloting a floating house across the middle of a lake just to evict the local dragon lady from a lair she'd stolen. But hey, life throws curveballs, and if you're watching this, you might want to think about moving to my neighborhood, because I promise things are never boring around here. Go ahead and drop in the comments where you're tuning in from, because by the end of this, you might want a front row seat. So picture this: about 3 weeks ago, I was living what I'd call a pretty peaceful life, minding my own business as Marcus Thompson, a retired marine archaeologist at the ripe old age of 35. I'd just inherited my granddad's old place, this killer lakeside property on Cedar Lake, Minnesota. Grandpa Harold wasn't your average old-timer either. He was an engineer, and he built our boathouse back in the 40s. But it wasn't your regular 4 walls and a dock type deal. This place had history secrets, and as I'd soon learn, a whole lot of trouble brewing beneath the surface. The trouble's name was Brenda Patterson. If there was ever a real-life villainess with a messy past, it was Brenda, the self-declared queen of the Lakeside Estates HOA. Ever since her public divorce meltdown 6 months back, Brenda had been laser-focused on everyone else's business, but her own basically making it her mission to run the neighborhood like a one-woman regime. And let's just say her Lake Life Lux blog wasn't exactly breaking the internet unless you count the 12 die-hard fans she'd guilted into following her protein smoothie bowls and sunset yoga reels. Now, while I was off on a 3-week expedition diving old Spanish shipwrecks in the Caribbean, living my Indiana Jones fantasy, Brenda apparently decided my absence was her opportunity to stake a claim. And I kid you not. The first thing that hit me when I got back wasn't the sight of my house, but the smell gone, was the cedar and lake air replaced by patchouli incense and some kind of weird vanilla protein powder clouding up the breeze. The next thing I saw was even more surreal: a sign hanging on my boathouse door, hand-painted in Pinterest script, Creative Sanctuary Private Retreat. I mean, come on. And then, as if on cue, Brenda herself waltzes out in a white kimono ring, light in hand, channeling the energy of a suburban cult leader. "Oh, Marcus, you're back," she trilled like we were old pals. She informed me with the subtlety of a bulldozer that she'd been using my adorable little boathouse for her content since I was gallivanting around the Caribbean, and because of some new HOA rules she claimed passed last month, it was now community waterfront property. Yeah, that happened. You know, sometimes I wish there was a course in college called How to Keep Calm When Your Nemesis Invades Your Property, because my blood pressure must have set a new record. I peeked inside and saw she'd redecorated everything antique maritime gear, boxed up yoga mats. Everywhere oil diffusers cranked to 11. Gone were Grandpa's ship wheels, compass roses, brass instruments replaced with Pinterest quotes like "Live Laugh Lake." She'd even removed artifacts, calling it decluttering for better energy flow. That's when it hit me: this wasn't some quirky misunderstanding. Something way bigger and a lot uglier was brewing. First thing next morning, I called my lawyer Dale, a no-nonsense property guy who's seen every kind of HOA nonsense. Dale, bless him, figured this would be an open and shut cease and desist. But Brenda didn't just refuse to leave. She launched a full-blown social media war, painting herself as the oppressed single mom and me as some heartless villain, all while systematically looting my grandfather's collection for wellness reasons. Every time I confronted her about missing artifacts, she spun a new excuse: bad energy, decluttering, temporary relocation for safekeeping. You know what I mean? It's the kind of crazy that almost makes you question your own sanity. But then my 80-year-old neighbor, Mrs. O'Brien Legend, tipped me off. She'd seen Brenda sneaking out boxes late at night, and one night she caught a glimpse of Grandpa's prized compass collection being loaded into Brenda's trunk. That was the moment I knew I was dealing with more than an overzealous HOA nut. This was theft, plain and simple. I set up my own little stakeout and, sure enough, caught Brenda in the act. Then I found my granddad's compass listed for sale online under Brenda's alias for a measly $50. 50 for a museum piece. I tried to report her, but the cops said it was my word against hers without proof of intent. Meanwhile, Brenda kept up the act, selling off artifacts, playing the victim, and turning half the neighborhood against me. But the twist. Some of those artifacts she was unloading were actually protected under federal law thanks to my grandfather's old paperwork stuff tied to state heritage and maritime preservation. And selling them isn't just bad manners, it's a felony. Cue Dr. Sarah Mitchell from the University of Minnesota, who stumbled on Brenda's listings and recognized one of the artifacts from a protected wreck site. She gave me the legal crash course my granddad had paperwork that technically made our family stewards, not owners. That meant Brenda was without a doubt in deep trouble if anyone could prove what she was doing. So I rang up the FBI agent Martinez real sharp, takes one look at my evidence and says, "If this checks out, we're looking at a major federal crime." Only problem, all the critical documentation was in the Boathouse now, Brenda's wellness retreat. Meanwhile, Brenda's scam had gone full enterprise. She was charging $75 a head for her lake life wellness workshops, roping in a crew of consultants who, as it turns out, were actually professional thieves. They started casing the place, photographing and measuring every artifact for quick removal. I even caught them on my trail cam mapping out how to haul the heaviest pieces. Brenda wasn't just a squatter, she was ringleader of a high-end burglary. I dove into my grandfather's files and found a secret blueprints, revealing that the Boathouse was actually a disguised research vessel, a floating building with hidden propulsion, retractable supports, and a full emergency conversion system. Turns out Grandpa had worked undercover for the Coast Guard using the Boathouse to monitor illegal salvage around protected shipwrecks. The place could literally detach from shore and sail away at the push of a button, a fact I clung to as Brenda's grand opening approached. That final week was a circus. Brenda hyped up her event, inviting the whole neighborhood for a ribbon cutting while her investors rolled in, none of whom looked remotely interested in yoga. Mrs. O'Brien caught them scoping out access routes, timing the comings and goings of neighbors, and asking way too many questions about load-bearing doors. It became obvious Brenda's big party was just a cover for a massive heist. Friday night arrived perfect weather. Everyone smiling and mingling, not a clue what was coming. The FBI was undercover in boats and on the shore waiting for Brenda's crew to make their move. But Brenda got greedy, started openly coordinating the artifact loading before the guests even left. Some old neighbors, bless them, finally called her out, and that's when the chaos broke loose. With the extraction team approaching from the lake and the FBI still waiting for the perfect moment, I decided to take a leap of faith, literally. I snuck to the hidden control panel, followed Grandpa's instructions to the letter, and hit the emergency protocol. Suddenly, the boathouse sealed itself. The ballast tanks filled, and the whole building began to float off from shore, slowly drifting into the middle of Cedar Lake. You could see the panic hit. 1 minute folks are eating canapes and meditating, the next they're on a runaway houseboat. The sight was unreal. Brenda mid-meltdown, her partners scrambling, guests losing their minds. The extraction boats tried to catch up, but the boathouse powered by Grandpa's old motors just kept cruising. The FBI swooped in, coordinated the rescue, and started rounding up Brenda's crew one by one. It took a couple of hours, but every innocent partygoer made it to shore safe, and all the evidence was right there, locked in a floating vault. Brenda and her partners had nowhere to run. When the dust settled, the authorities counted 67 stolen artifacts, tracked Brenda's transactions across 5 states, and busted up an international ring that had no clue they'd picked the worst possible target. Brenda went down hard, 4 years in federal prison, for trafficking protected artifacts, with her crew getting 2 to 6 apiece. My granddad's boathouse officially a National Historic Landmark with me as the curator, and thanks to the Restoration Fund, a chance to continue his legacy. Mrs. O'Brien got a medal from the FBI, and the boathouse itself is now a legend. People come by just to see the house that sailed, and honestly, every time I look at Cedar Lake, I remember how much more there was to Grandpa than I ever knew. So, if you're still here, let me ask, what would you have done in my shoes? Do you think justice was served, or was this whole thing just another HOA feud gone wild? Drop your thoughts below, because let's face it, in this neighborhood you never really know which building might float off next.